Hi, I'm Tiffany Domino. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my website is howtoentrepreneur.org, and my mission is to help you grow a business from idea to enterprise. Today, I'm here with Paul Scrivs from Dare to Conquer, and I'm really excited to interview him on how to run a six-figure or more online business. Paul's had great experiences online and also bad ones that he is really transparent about talking about. So I'm excited to like get some golden nuggets from his experiences. So first I want to start by asking you about your background and letting you explain how you got into business and
Oh, how long do we want this story to be?
well, okay. So you're Paul Scrivens, and I heard you started business like around 10 years ago. Like,
All
how did
right.
you get into it?
All right. Well, first, because I know people are gonna wonder what the rest of the shirt says, so
Right.
that's just nothing too crazy there. Um, I'm gonna go back to when I was a kid, actually. So I'm gonna go way back
Whoa.
when. Yeah. Just so you can understand the mindset of how things developed over time. So my family wasn't rich. We weren't like dirt poor, but I'd say maybe like lower middle class. But it was those kind of families where as a kid you would ask for something and the parents were always like, we ain't got money for that. It was like there's just never money for anything.
Yeah.
And then I mean, which was fine. I had a great childhood and all that kind of stuff. But um, for some reason, all my friends always were able to get things and all that kind of stuff, and their parents always had fancy jobs. And so, in my mind, it was always, oh, if you want something, you have to get a really, really nice job. You have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, or something like that. So that was always my mindset growing up. Um, and so I get to college and I say, oh, I'm gonna be a computer scientist, get a fancy job at Microsoft or Google or something, and then I'll start making lots of money. And I got my first job and I hated it. Like I just couldn't stand it. Because you go from college, you're doing all the fun stuff, you're living the life that you want to live, and then you get a job, and somebody's like, you got to do this, and I was like, oh, this really sucks. Let me just try doing some web design. So I started doing some web design on the side. And then my boss found out I can do web design. And she was like, oh, do you want to design our website? I said, sure, I'll do that. It means if I'm working on the website, that means that I don't have to do the stuff that you hired me to do that I
So
hate
this
doing
might be
anyways.
personal, but I have a question. What
Go for
time
it.
frame is this?
This is 2003.
Okay, so like this is early internet.
Yeah. So this is like when the term blogging started becoming invented. So
Okay.
I'm doing this web design, and to learn web design, I figured I'd start a blog because I seen other people start blogs, and so I was like, oh, let me teach myself web design while I blog, and I was writing
This
about
is
all this stuff. And
pre-WordPress, right?
yes, this is like very close to like when WordPress was getting ready to get started. So back then, the big blogging software was called Movable Type. Um,
Google type?
Movable Type.
Oh, okay.
So and so I start writing about web design and using my unique way of talking, which was kind of different from everybody else. If you don't know what that is, it usually involves a lot of cursing and making fun of stuff.
Oh no.
And so people found me, and they started to subscribe, they write comments, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I can like start something from scratch and reach a lot of people that I don't even know. And
Right.
people are following me and they're talking to me. And one day somebody goes, hey, are you do you have any web design services? And instead of saying no, I was like, oh, of course. It's like, oh, okay, I'd love for you to design my website. How much do you charge? And I'm like, oh man, like I've never done any of this before. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, $500, because that's like a lot of money in my head. And the guy's like, sure, no problem. And now I look back and I'm like, I'm an idiot. I should, it could have been like $5,000 or something like that. Because this guy had like crazy amount of businesses. Um, so I designed this website, and then more and more people just kept on hitting me up. Hey, can you design mine? I was like, whoa, like I can actually make more money on my own than this $9.50 that I'm making with this boss at this job that I completely hate.
Right.
Um, and that's just how that kind of got started. And then I kept on building more and more blogs, and more and more people would hit me up with certain things, and more business opportunities would come, and that was all great. But since I was a party animal, I was way back when I was a party animal, so I'm making money with no responsibility, and I don't have to wake up any certain time. So I'm hitting the clubs, I'm hitting the bars, I'm making money, I'm spending the money, I have to go make more money, I'm spending that money, and it's going back and forth until a point I burned myself out, and I just stopped doing all of it. Um, and then I actually got another real job in LA, and that's when I think things really changed for me, because that's when I got put into I like to consider a professional environment, where I saw I saw what hardworking people were able to achieve.
Yeah.
I thought what I was doing, I was like, oh, I'm a hard worker. Wouldn't really, I found out I'm super, super lazy. I just work an hour a day, maybe if I'm lucky. And, I would get lucky and make some money, but I would see people just grinding 10, 12 hours, which I don't recommend anybody do. But it was oh, okay, if I really want to take this next leap, maybe these are the things I had to consider. And so that started the journey that I'm on now, with regards to these new businesses that I currently have.
Well, I
Yeah,
definitely will
that's
get
the
back
origin story.
to, I'll
Yeah.
definitely get back to asking about your priorities and how you schedule things, because I'm really interested in that.
Me
But,
too.
oh, you are? Yeah, that'll be funny. So, but I had, anyway, going to mindset. Did you ever have times where you had to build confidence, or did you go through that period at the beginning, starting a business, when you just really doubted yourself, or you had a lot of fears or things that you had to overcome? And if so, how did you deal with that?
The funny thing is, I didn't, but
Is
it's
this just
not
a man
because,
thing? Because
but
the interviews I've done with men, they say, I really didn't. And then their wives might say something different.
right. Well, I can explain why I did it. Besides the fact that I'm extremely cocky, but I don't think my ego or anything had
Oh,
anything to do with it.
no.
In this case, my ego didn't have anything. It was more because I was sometimes I was just dead broke, and I had to make money. So I didn't have time to think, am I scared to do this, or do I need confidence? It was this guy's knocking on my door about to take my car away. I need to make money. You don't have time for that. As a parent, as you would understand, when your kid's in trouble, and you don't sit there and pause and think, oh, am I scared to go help them? You're no, something just kicks on and you just do it.
Instinct.
Right. And you just do it. And so that's how it was always with me, with regards to starting anything. And the people I
Okay.
help, I find that if as a human, if you're not pressured or pushed by some external force, usually it's people really, really hate their job and they're just totally sick of it. Or, like me, they're dead broke, or they want to get out of a bad relationship. If there's no external force pushing people, then they usually get caught up in their own mindset stuff. And that's where I'm kind of scared to start a business. I don't really have to start one because I'm still making money over
Okay.
here,
So when
that
they're not in
type of thing.
survival mode.
Right.
What about because I've been in survival mode, and I know that when you're in survival mode, sometimes you're too desperate and you may undercharge, and it comes into other issues that are mindset related. Do you feel like that was a problem?
Yeah, that's been a huge problem, actually, where I've done a lot of stuff, and I was just you're freaking out, and you say, okay, I have this opportunity to make money, but I don't want to chase this opportunity away. So let me just completely undercharge,
Yeah,
because money's just money at
right.
that point. Um, and then what happens is you make that money and you get stuck in a situation. Like if you're doing web design for a client, you get stuck in a situation where you have this 6-month client that paid you this little amount of money, but you have to work with them for 6 whole months, and
Right.
you've already used that money up, and you need to make more money. So
Right.
you're like, okay, I need to find another client while I work on this client, and things start building up. Yeah, it's hard for me to always tell people that, you should charge more, whether it's for your own products or for your own services, when I know a lot of them are in situations like I was in where you have to make some type of money. So I don't know where that breaks, where you have to make that quick short-term money versus when you get able to step back and say, okay, I'm going to charge exactly what I'm worth and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it does take work to really understand the value that you provide and that you should be charging more. I think a lot of people get stuck in the concept of, just because I'm able to do something, that means it's probably not as valuable, so I won't charge as much. But the thing is, whatever talent or skill you're selling, that's super valuable to somebody else, you
Yeah.
know?
I
Um,
think to piggyback on what you were saying, I think that when you have that balance, when you can start to charge more, it's really when the demand goes up.
yeah,
And once the demand is like significantly less than what you have, like I don't have enough time to do all of this, so I have to start charging more, because I think that's really where it's a tipping point, and that's a good place to be.
yeah, yeah.
But up until then, when you have like one or two leads and
That's when it gets tough, because you got to be consistent, right? Like you get that one lead and you got like, oh man, you got to keep grinding,
right,
and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, and then one day you wake up and it's like, oh, this is all worked out. Like, it just, I don't want to say it just magically happens, but it's
yeah,
those people that just keep on pushing
yeah,
until they look back and they're like, oh, all this stuff I just walked through just built up into this awesome mountain. Now that, and that's mine. But it's the people that, there's other people who go, oh, this is just not worth it. Like, oh, I've tried for a month. It's not worth it.
right. I've heard you call it planting flags.
Yeah.
And so you have to plant enough flags that there's an overwhelming demand, but the supply is just not enough to keep up with it. And I think you kind of have to keep it like that. Otherwise, you do end up staying desperate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of different dynamics when it comes to selling like that. But when going back to the price increase, the funny thing about increasing your price is, I think we think when we start a business or we sell services or products, we think about how we buy things sometimes. So it's like, if we go to the grocery store, we're like, okay, do I need this $20 paper towel roll, or do I need this, or can I get by with this $5 one? Like, we do a lot of price comparison stuff. But when it
Right.
comes to the services and products we offer, if I'm offering, a Pinterest course for $9, somebody's
Hmm.
going to come to that and they're going to be like, okay, that's cheap, but why is it so cheap? Like that I'm not going to get any value out of it, versus the person that's charging $99. They're going to
Right.
think, oh, I'm going to get more value out of that $99 one. So that $99 one becomes more popular, and more people end up talking about it, and then more people end up buying it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. There's a limit. Like, yeah, I can't charge $10,000 for the Pinterest course, because that just prices everybody out. But I think over time, people start to realize that higher prices not only give you better customers, um, but it's just easier to maintain a business with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I think it's like that this is all pricing theory stuff, but um, I really like to be in the middle. I like to be uh, moderately priced. Just me personally, penetration pricing is what they
Right.
call it, because uh, you don't outprice people. Like people that don't have a lot of money can reach it,
Right.
but people that have a lot of money still see value, and so you should be able to get both congregations, both people, like backgrounds together. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And I think it totally depends on the audience that you're trying to reach, and what you're
It's
doing.
true.
So like my courses, people will tell me, oh, your courses, they're underpriced. But the reason why I don't charge an exuberant amount for them, which I definitely could, is because I'm thinking about that, that stay-at-home mom who's like, just wants to make money from home, wants to build her own business, but she's not going to be able to, say, hey, I can drop $2,000 on this course.
Right.
So, you know, if I want to help that person, then I have to take in consideration the price I charge for things. Like
Right.
I can't just say I want to help this person. Oh, but I'm also want to make X amount of money by charging a ridiculous price. You know, if that's the case, then that means I'm actually trying to reach somebody else, not her.
Right.
But I do have other products that are higher priced because I know, you know, this is a different type of person
Mm-hmm.
that I'm trying to reach. And that's just things you have to take into consideration when it comes to
Yeah.
pricing as well.
I think from for even if you're doing penetration pricing, it's like I think it's good to have tiers where it's like beginners have the lowest price because they
Right. No.
and then you have intermediate and then you have advanced. So like for example, my husband and I are a part of a real estate group, and they're real estate investors, and they'll have a single family, like people who are starting out with single family real estate, and the price is low. But if you're into multifamily, then they
Right. Right. Right.
they're not nice to you.
Right. Right. Right.
Pocket wise, it's like we have to be gatekeepers, because these people, may not want certain people to know them, and
Right. Right.
um, so they have the price as a gate.
Right.
Um,
Makes sense.
yeah. So anyway, you talked about starting out as a graphic designer, and so that was the first business that you really started.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you
So
started that pretty much, well, it's an online business because you're making websites.
right.
But how did you switch to where you started to get your customers from online?
That was just straight blogging. I didn't
Okay.
I didn't go out and search for anybody. And that's why the business was kind of accidental. Like I never thought, oh, I want to start a web design business. It was, let me just write about web design. And because, and this is where I think a lot of people mistake blogging as a waste of time. Blogging is really just marketing. Like blogging is just you
Right.
sharing your knowledge, letting people understand, oh, who you are. And so when
It's a
people,
portfolio.
right. And so where people were getting the understanding that, oh, this person does know about web design. He does know what he's talking about. Like his views. Let me see if I can hire him.
Right.
Um, and that's how everything came about. Nowadays, I could see, doing it differently. If I had the money to start, maybe I would throw up some landing pages and do some Facebook ads, but I would still go about doing some type of blogging, some type of YouTube channel. I would still put a lot of focus on the free marketing aspects
Yeah. I think
that
it
are available.
keeps the customer acquisition costs low.
Yeah,
Like Facebook ads definitely drive up that customer acquisition cost.
right, right. And the thing with blogging or having a YouTube channel is that instead of somebody hounding you for hours on a phone call or a super long email thread, if they have this history that they can go through of your blog posts or your videos, then it gets to the point where they're like, I totally understand this person. Like I know this person, I know I'm ready to work with them.
Yeah.
So what they'll hit you up and be like, how much is this going to cost? And it just avoids so much more of the usual conversations that you go to. But it also helps that person know, do I really want to work with this person?
Yeah.
You don't have to go through that weird, will this work between us type of thing.
Qualifying.
Right, right. So I'm sure that doesn't happen with everybody, but I'm a very strong personality. So there's some people I just don't click with. And I have no shame saying like, this is just not going to work out between us. Uh, but I think you read my blog posts and, over
Yeah.
time, emails and videos, if you would know, you'd be like, okay, no, I can't work with that guy. That
Right.
guy seems like a pain in the ass. I'm not going to work with him whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
I think for people who are not familiar with blogging and the benefits in the sales funnel, I think it's really closely comparable to like promo products or flyer marketing or something like that. Whereas you put out something and you're attracting the audience instead of manual, where you're like going out knocking on doors and stuff like
right.
that.
Right. I
So
mean,
it's an inbound attraction type of thing. I go and I put my business cards at this restaurant, and as a result, people are going to pick it up and they're going to call me. You
right.
know?
And it goes a step further, because usually when people are searching for something online, it's a small problem that might also have a bigger problem that they just aren't aware about. So for example, if somebody, they want to do, they're trying to figure out, I don't know, a perfect font for their website. And so let's say I still have a web design service and I have a blog post on the best fonts to use.
Mm-hmm.
And they come and they find that and they're like, oh, this guy really helped me. Let me see what else he has. And, all my other blog posts are going through different aspects of design. They might end up saying, you know what, I'm gonna let him do this design stuff while I focus on something else. So
Right.
let me pay him
You can see the
to take care of
expertise.
that. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a really huge benefit. You get different people in based on those little things that they're searching for. And they when they come across you, they end up saying, oh, wow, there's just so much more out there with regards to what I need to do. So uh, let me pay
It's the
you
good old
instead of
sales
doing it.
presentation, like how Kirby, they knock on your door and then they try to manhandle inside so that they can show you the benefits of their
Right.
vacuum.
Right. It's
But
like the old school, yeah,
skip
like you
that
said, the old
part.
school vacuum. They throw the wine on the floor and they're like, "Oh, you need somebody to clean this up now. Let me show you this vacuum I have." And you're like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
I guess I have to pay you now because you just ruined my whole carpet."
So but we skip the part where you're doing the knocking on the door and stuff like
Right.
that because
Right.
the people are actually looking for your service. But I want
Correct.
to get to generating feedback. So once you got to a point where you were doing the web design business, you have family, you have friends. What did they think about it? And were they supportive? I know now your family works with you, so
I this is going to be a disappointing answer because I think I have a unique situation. So in the case of my family and friends, I'm more of like the alpha male type thing. So like whatever I say just goes. Like nobody just questions anything that I do. I'm sure behind my back they talk to each other and they're like, this guy's an idiot. Why is he trying to do that? But like from the beginning, everybody was like, oh, you're doing that? Cool. Except for my mom. My mom was always like, no, you need to get a real job because that's the world they grew up in. Like you have to get a real job and you
yeah,
have to work 9 to 5 for the next 60 years for the same company and
uh-huh,
that kind of stuff. And I was like, Mom, I tell you, it's not me. Like even if I tried my best, but it's not me. I mean, granted,
right,
like if my family was down in the dumps and there's no other option, I had to do it. I would do what my family needs to survive, but I just couldn't do it. And so it probably took her 10 years to finally stop asking me if I was going to get a job. And that only happened when I started to actually tell her the money I was making. And when she started understanding that month after month after month I was making, X amount of money, then she was like, okay, fine. Okay. Maybe you don't need a job and
right.
everything. And then I hired her. She was like, okay, don't get a job. Don't ever get another job.
So you hired your mom?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
she your employee or
Yeah, she's an employee. My
was
brother
she,
is an
was she the
employee.
first one? Was she your first employee?
No, my brother was the first one.
Okay.
And my brother was the first one because he had graduated college. He got a master's. He got a job, and he was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this
you had
job."
a high level employee.
Uh, but he got a job where he was like, "Oh, this job was not what I thought it'd be. I don't like this." And that was only after 6 months, and I was like, "Okay, I'll teach you, let me teach you my side of things and let's see if you like it and that kind of stuff." And, now he's been doing it for 2+ years. And now he's like, I'm never going back ever again. I'm never getting a job again. And so you know, my mom would get on him, be like, Steven, you never know. You might want to keep an eye out for other jobs. And then now she finally stops asking him about getting new jobs and all that kind of stuff. So it's yeah, but I know other people, especially with the communities I run, this is always an ongoing topic of how do you get support from
Right.
family and friends who, you know, who throw that doubt on you and everything. And I don't think there's any real good advice. Like, you can sit down, you can have a talk with them and say, you know, the reason why I'm doing this is because I feel this way. You know, I feel tied down and I feel like I need to express myself. And I feel like this is the freedom that's going to give me. After you have that talk with them, and they still, you know, are like being negative and throwing doubt and all that kind of stuff, all I can say is, like, just don't talk about the business anymore. Just be like, you know, talk about something else until you grow it. And if then they want to talk about it, then talk about it. But sometimes there are people who really do have to go at it on their own. But that's why we have a community. And that's why I felt it was important for me for the stuff that I have, to create an online community. So if there weren't people in your real life that weren't supporting you, you can jump online and find people that are going through the exact same struggle that you could talk to and that would be supportive of you. So, you know, at least one part of your life, there was a supportive group of people that could continue to push you forward
Right.
with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about community, and I think it applies to anything you really want to perfect. If you want to be a good parent, if you want to be a good, um, have a good marriage,
Right.
but especially business, you have to. And with online business, it's much more, I think it's even more important because it's so like new. And so it's like people kind of look like you're doing what?
Right. It's always like, oh, you're doing some scam or you're being scammed
Like
by
you're sitting on your
somebody.
couch, but you're doing your business.
Right. Like
Or-
it's such a it's a hard concept for people to understand. One,
Mhm.
because there's so many different ways to make money
Right.
online, but a lot of and also, unfortunately, a lot of the things that people come across are scams.
Scams.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, people think, oh, that's what you're doing. And it's like, no, I'm actually doing this other thing.
And people
And
underestimate. Like
right.
I work with so many people who underestimate what it takes to run an online business. Like they'll they'll sign up, they want to learn, and then maybe after 1 month they're like, what happened?
Oh,
Or
you're telling me you want to get you want to get into this side of things and everything?
I thought because you priced a little higher that like that maybe you didn't deal with that so much. And
No.
I really did. I thought that you didn't deal with that
I,
much.
I probably deal with it more. I feel like I deal with it more than anybody, simply because, I mean, you see our community. We're very open. Like, a lot of people come and talk to us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the other courses are more like Facebook groups or just no support whatsoever. Um, but it's interesting to see that cycle of, oh, okay, I can make $5,000 a month. Let me just start up a blog and start doing. And you actually get into it, and it's like, damn, okay, this isn't, it's not manual physical labor, but there's a lot of stuff that I have to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that consistency that we talked about earlier, just sitting down and doing the same stuff over and over and over again for a
Yeah.
long period
I,
of time.
I wonder too, do you think that because it's a fairly new career field that maybe that's why the expectation is so slanted? Do you think that'll change? Like, because my son, he's younger, and the kids are growing up with the internet, so maybe over time the expectation will be more
You know,
realistic. I don't
I,
know.
I don't I don't think the expectation will change, but I think with the younger generations, more people will at least see that there's a possibility to go this route. Um,
But
but they're in a different world where, you know, they start a YouTube channel just for fun, and all of a sudden, you know,
they
6 months
blow
later,
up.
they have an audience. Yeah, and, you know, it's like, whoa, you know,
They're
how this happened?
aggressive. They're not just like they're aggressive. They're doing more than like the earlier generations are doing just
Right.
because it's fun. But also it reminds me of like when going back in history when the settlers founded America, quote unquote founded America, and they used to go back to England and say, "Hey, you can get rich because of this new land. There's gold all
Right.
over
Right.
the place." And so it seems like that new, like, gold rush type of feeling where everybody knows that you can make money online, but they perceived it as much easier. So it's, you know how like over time they would take the boats and they would come over here and they would
Right.
die and
I
or
mean,
whatnot.
I mean, to put it simply,
Seemed like it
people are
got
just
weeded
lazy.
out.
People are lazy. Like we're just humans by nature, just lazy.
Yeah,
So, it's no different than like weight loss. If somebody's like, hey, this is the thing you got to do to lose 20 pounds, somebody can say, oh, that seems easy. But then they actually have to do it. They have to go through the work, and do that. Um, it, 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 we're just lazy by nature. It's
why do you
so
think it doesn't plague, like, I feel like in certain career fields like nursing or engineering or other career fields, it doesn't seem like people come with the expectation that this will be easy. I kick my feet up and then money's just rolling in. Why do you think it's different? Um,
be, because there's not like nursing. There's a school that you have to go through, right? And so okay, this is the work I got to put in. Same with engineering. When it comes to building an online business, there is no school. It's just some random guy telling you, these are things that you have to do, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that random guy's just doing it, so I'll have to do it. And it's also the people that, and when I say the people, I'm also talking about myself. What we do a poor job of is documenting our whole journey. So
right, yeah,
you see me and you're like, oh, okay, he's going to help me do this, so it's going to be easy. But what have I started my website off with? At 2000, in 2003, this is how I started, and now 16 years later, now I'm finally here.
right.
I think if more people did a better job of sharing all their stories of the ups and downs and all that kind of stuff, then I think a lot more people would have a more realistic expectation. But
Yeah.
when it comes to starting online business, it's always, hey, I made $5,000 after my third month, you can too,
Right.
type of thing. And so, I mean, it's just the way the industry is, unfortunately.
Okay.
I try to do it differently. If I do it better or worse, it's up for debate, but you know
Well, I mean, the ones, the pins and the posts that definitely catch attention are ones when you're like, I made this much.
right, right,
But
right.
I think I do appreciate how you do the income reports and how you say what you did well and what you didn't do well. I think having a balanced outlook is still like, from now I've been following you for what, like 2 years now.
Tiffany, we go way back.
Yeah,
We
way
back.
back. So I think when I first signed up for Billionaire Blog Club, it was like you had the Pinterest book, and it wasn't as established as it is
Right,
now.
right.
So yeah,
I would say
but
but you've got to see you've seen the growth
I've got to
then. Like
see the
you've seen the
elevation.
change. Right,
But I
right,
didn't see, what I didn't see is what it took to get where I started. I didn't
right,
see how, I didn't see the web design journey, or
right.
how you decided, how you got from there to being online, or um, yeah, how did you, I didn't see all that. When did you meet your wife and how did she get the picture? And, you know, like all of those stories are interesting, but
Right.
they're question marks.
That's funny because we did Mary Beth and I did Mary Beth is the community manager.
Right, right.
We did a coaching call last night, and one of the things we talked about was doing a better job of telling our origin stories, and that's what I'm just calling. So of just like going through different parts of our stories that led us to get to whatever point we're at right now.
Yeah,
And the better we can do that, the more relatable we become, the more human we become, the more somebody is able to just look and say, oh, that person, even though I'm not where they're at, they are like me in the struggles that they went through,
right.
the ups and downs, the journeys. And so I think then it becomes more realistic that, hey, I can end up where that person is, or I can do what
Right.
that person did,
I
just
agree.
because you share those stories.
Hmm.
And so that's something that I definitely need to do a better job of. And there's some people who would be like, I'm very private, I don't want to share anything. And I don't think it's about sharing necessarily like very private or personal matters, but there's ways you can craft a story where you're still telling your side and the things you went through, without getting into crazy details, if
Right.
you don't want to.
Right. You don't have to
Because
be a
now,
Kardashian.
right. But nowadays, what it is, and I think a lot of people are having a hard time understanding, is that whenever you start a business, because it's you starting the business, people have to like you. People have to relate to you.
Right. You build it
Because
off of your reputation.
right, yeah, right. It's you. And so if people don't like you, or they don't understand you, or you're not relatable, then they'll just find that next person that
Right.
does whatever. That
Even with
doesn't mean you try to make everybody like you. It's just, you know, how it goes.
right.
So
Even when you study people like Sam Walton, who started Walmart, I mean, you can actually get a feel for what his personality was like.
right,
So much is documented, which means that he had to be transparent to a certain extent.
right.
Um, but going to prioritization, you kind of hit on it earlier. You talked about how you started out and you partied and you were single and all that stuff. But now I know you're married and I think you've had 2 kids since I
Two
started
kids.
reading, you know.
Yeah. It was funny because I didn't have kids, and then you joined, and now I have kids. So hopefully every year that you're here, I don't have another kid. Hopefully
Yeah,
this
it
stops.
happens to be back to back. So I guess you got excited. You built a community. You got excited. You started having kids. So,
All right.
but
So yeah.
how do you balance that? Is it like more of a team play? Your wife does more of the home management so that you can focus on the business type of thing. But I also thought that she does a blog or something like that too. So
Yeah. So I'll go back before the kids. So when I started doing this stuff, I fell into the trap of just thinking like I always have to be at the computer. And so I was just grinding on the computer nonstop. And, I did that for the first couple of weeks, and, it'd get nighttime. My wife would get home, and, I'd see her for a second. I'm like, okay, I got to go back to work. And, at the beginning, she was like, oh, I understand. He's trying to do something. But like after
these
like a
are
month,
12 more hour days, right?
yeah, yeah.
Do
And so
you
like
think
after,
at the beginning?
these are at the
I
beginning.
think that's just a phase. I think you have to like lay the groundwork and you have to build to a certain point.
Right. For certain. Right. I think a lot of it, the 12-hour days happened because I didn't know what I was doing. It was just a lot of
But that's a part of
experimentation.
the process.
Right. No, right. And I get that. And that's how it should be. But like I said, my mistake was that after a month of doing that, she didn't know when she was going to see me, type of thing.
Mhm.
And so her conversation was, look, I know you have to grind this, and I know you have to do this, but, let me know, hey, on Saturdays, we're going to go out for 2 hours or something like that. Establish some type of schedule. So she has that expectation of when she's going to see me.
Yeah.
And when she broke it down like that, I was like, oh, that's completely reasonable. I could totally do that. And so it became this thing where, like, every Saturday or Sunday, we would schedule 2 or 3 hours, and she knows that would be just my time with her, and that's when she totally had my attention and everything. And then she was fine for me the rest of the days doing that. And so,
And then that's where the kids came.
yeah, those damn 2-hour breaks. See, if she didn't give me those 2-hour breaks, nothing would have happened. But that's when I understood like the importance of like having that communication. Like, what is that expectation? I don't think. I think people get worried and they say, oh, my partner's upset because all I do is work. And it's usually more the partner doesn't know what to expect. Like the partner doesn't get to sit over your shoulder and look at the computer to see what you're doing. And so
Right.
to them, you're just in a room at a desk for 6 hours, just
Or you
typing
have an
random
addiction.
stuff.
That's
Right. Right. And so they don't know. And so there has to be that kind of communication to be like, this is what I'm going to do. So now when we have kids, every morning we'll talk, and she'll say, okay, what hours do you need to be in office, with no distractions? And so, like today I said, I have an interview at 10:30. So from 10:30 to 11:30 or whatever, that's when I need this quiet time. And then, when we're done with this, what I'll do is I'll go out, see how they're doing, play with the kids for a little bit, help get them ready for their naps, and then go back and, do more work. But it's that constant communication that we have of, when do you, so I'll ask her, when do you need me? When do you want to get out? And, I watch the kids, and she asked me, when do I need the quiet time, and that kind of stuff.
That's a good partnership.
Yeah. It wasn't easy. It took, it does take some,
It
I won't
does.
say for everybody, I won't say it takes arguments for everybody, but for us, it took like, a lot of frustration, because I think sometimes you just keep quiet about things until like,
Right.
you're just kind of like, oh, why won't you let me work? Like I've had that where I'm like, oh, I can never get any work done.
Yeah.
And it was because she didn't understand the
What
time
you,
I needed or what
yeah.
I was doing. But when she understood that, I was like, oh, okay, now that I know, I can help you,
Yeah.
by taking the kids out and doing that kind of stuff. As
Yeah.
for her working, she, before the kids, she was working for me. After the kids, now she's like, oh, my job is the mom. But the funny thing is now, because she's been on that like mom grind for 2 years, now
Mhm.
she's starting to be like, hey, what kind of business can we start up again? Because I think now she wants to do something that's for her.
Yeah.
And not saying, being a mom's not doing for her, but she wants that, I want
The
something for me type of
self-expression.
thing. Right. Right.
Self-expression. I know for me, I actually started my business when my daughter was 4 months. um, but I think for me, it was, I had been in the workforce for so long. I was in the military for 9 years, and being in the workforce for so long, and feeling that, feeling that fulfillment from helping in the community,
Right.
and then coming in the house, and then it's like I'm only helping these two people.
Right. Right.
I mean, not that it does, it can definitely have a domino effect when you parent well and you send your kids out. But I just wanted more. I wanted to be able to help more people,
Right.
to be able to use my skills more. And that's where online business really came in for me.
Right. And I think, uh, a lot of people, I think, and this is where the conflict happens with friends and family, is that a lot of people just don't understand that starting a business, yeah, part of it's about money. We can't ignore that, but there's also a large part, like there's some fulfillment that you feel like you need to get out of it. Like you
Exactly.
have to do it for you. And then there's something totally different. There's a totally different feeling when you create something from scratch for yourself
Yeah.
than anything else that you can ever do.
Right. And also, it's a legacy thing. For me, I feel like it's a way you can impact a lot of people. It's a way that you can leave something for your kids, for your
Right.
family, even if you don't leave them the business. The royalties or the benefits of having run the business, there should be some trickle effect on your
Right.
kids.
Right.
So I do
100%
think it's
agree.
a legacy thing too. Um, but I really want to get to, we talked about prioritization. I think we got to know what you do, how you manage that. And that sounds like really bomb teamwork. I know in my family, I'm married to, I have two kids. And we've also had different conversations, some of them nice and some of them not so nice. And the point was to establish what we each needed, what type of support we each needed.
Right.
And I've had to plug into a lot of community type of things. We are involved with like the YMCA and different organizations to get the kids plugged into recreation that offsets some of the demand on parents.
Right.
Because you can use all the energy and stuff, sign them up for
Right.
classes, develop them creatively, and then also give time to the business. So, proving your concept, at what point do you feel like you knew that the business could support your lifestyle or the lifestyle you wanted? Was that ever something that you thought about?
It was, I have this thing, and this is probably where my ego kicks in, but there was never a doubt that what I was going to do was going to be able to support me. And the reason why is because I saw it worked for other people. And I'm the
Okay.
type of person where I'm like, if that person can do it, I sure as hell know I can do it. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason he can do it or she can do it and I can't do it.
Hmm.
And so, and that was like why I loved income reports so much, because back then there would be bloggers like, oh, I made $50,000 doing this. And it wasn't, I never saw it as bragging. I'm thankful for it because it actually opened my eyes that there was
I
potential
agree.
to do
I
something. I was
agree.
like, what? I was like, I didn't even know this was even possible, but
I
now this
agree.
person's doing it. And
I think the same thing when you go to look for a job or you go to look for a career. If you're really planning your life, you really look at what the potential is. Like, what type of lifestyle will I be able to live? If I become an engineer, how much can I make doing that?
right.
I think the income report stands in the place of that for us because you can't just go on the Department of Labor's website and find a blog. So I think the income reports definitely filled a significant gap there.
Right. And that's, it's funny that we're talking about this, because when I help, some people will come to me and they'll say, I want to start a blog within this niche, and will I be able to quit my job in, X amount of months? And I say, well, the easiest thing you can do instead of asking me is see if there's another blog that's already making that kind of money and doing well, because then you'll know. But I think some people get caught up in the idea of building their own business and it helping so many people, but not realizing that maybe the topic that they picked or the product they want to sell isn't going to support them to the level they want to.
Yeah.
And, when they ignore that, it's like, oh, well, why isn't this working for me? It's like, well, because that audience just isn't going to support the lifestyle that you really want. So you really
But
have to go in with some type of business mind.
yeah, I think you were one of the few people who puts logic before passion. A lot of people say follow your passion, follow what you love, which when I read, have you seen Mind Valley?
Yeah.
So he talks about being superhuman is when you can play and you work and you don't know the difference.
Right.
um, but it doesn't sound like that's what you are.
People who talk like that, and I totally get where they're coming from, but I think people who talk like that always seem like the people that always had money, like they never had to worry about money. And so like the way I teach, I'm thinking, I was dead broke. If somebody came to me and says, follow your passion, I'll be like, that ain't putting no damn food on my table right now.
Right,
I need a structure. Like somebody tell me like, do this, and this is what's going to make you money. And so my goal is always, and I know when people come to me, they want to talk that woo-woo stuff. Yeah, I want to help people and all that. And I get that. And I want them to help people. But it's a lot easier to help people when you're making money. And it's a lot easier to live the life you want when you're making money. Right. So I mean, it's gotten to the point where some people like to pretend that money is not an aspect of business.
yeah.
But
It's like
the thing is,
it's like one of the biggest. That's the check engine light.
right. The thing is, when you're stressed about your business, you're stressed because you're not making money.
Right.
It's never like, oh, I'm stressed because I'm not really helping the people I want to help. Like nobody thinks like that. It's like, damn, I'm not really making any money. So how
Mhm.
can I fix that? If you can fix that part, then everything else becomes a lot smoother. And so that's always been my focus.
Mhm.
Um, and you've been through my stuff, so it's not just, hey, this is the exact steps you make money. It's, I'm going to help you make money, but I'm also going to help you build that brand up that gets you
Right.
intrigued and pulls the people in. And, that does help you help the people that you want and get the people to love you and and love everything that you do.
Right.
But I mean, let's not ignore, you got to make some money.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. So um as far as I think I'm gonna skip some parts. I had more questions, but I want to skip to the sales and conversions type of things.
yeah.
I'm always going to ask you more questions, but we're kind of like running over.
I talk too much. I apologize
We
about that.
both do. We both do. So, um, in
You'll have to
terms
come back
of,
for a part 2 one day.
yeah, that would be
So,
great. Um, in terms of sales and getting sales online, um, what business model do you think is the best to start with? I know that you've kind of noticed that you had more than one going on. Um, do you think it's best to start as an affiliate? Do you think it's best to start by creating products? Do you think it's best to start with services? What do you think is best to start with?
uh, I don't want to say it depends, but let's just say, like, if you're thinking, what is the quickest way that I can make some type of money? And I don't mean within 3 weeks. Let's say, like, 0 to 6 months, within that time frame.
Mhm.
Then I'm always going to say services, because with services, there's nothing you have to build up. You just wake up one day and say, hey, this is my service, right? And
Mhm.
that's, you just tell people about that. And with services, the great thing is there's not really much explaining that you have to do. You just say, this is what I do, this is what I'll do for you. And that's easy to tell somebody, and they can say, okay, I'm going to give you X amount of money, you're going to do this Y thing for me. Like, there's no complication there
Yeah.
when it comes to that stuff.
Mhm.
So I would always say that's the easiest. But like we talked about earlier, you have to be careful of a couple things. You have to be careful of charging too low, because then you get pain in the ass clients.
Mhm.
You have to really understand if you're that type of person who can manage their time and
Yeah.
communicate with people. Because I think the hardest thing with services is managing time and keeping that constant communication with the
Mhm.
clients. Because when you don't do that, you start getting emails like, hey, what's going on? And they start emailing you every hour, and you start freaking out and all that kind of stuff. But I
Yeah.
think long term, the best way to make money is always going to be with your own products,
Mhm.
because you control the money. um, Time isn't an issue anymore. You get to step away from the computer and do all that kind of stuff. But I think affiliate marketing is that good middle ground in between those
Okay.
two, because it helps you. It's selling. So if you can sell an affiliate product, you can sell your own product,
Yeah.
essentially. But that, with affiliate products, you don't have to worry about customer service or
Right.
creating the actual product itself. So you actually get to fine tune and hone in your selling skills when you're ready. When you get those nailed down, you can move over to products. And it seems like a more natural transition. The great thing, though, about starting with services is that you can package that service over time into a product itself.
Mhm.
Um, and so you
So
can
would you
actually
say
just skip the.
digital products and then physical products, or where would you is
I've never done physical products, only because, I mean, back then you had to have a big garage and store all the physical thing. But now you can do like Amazon
FBA?
fulfillment services and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, which, maybe one day I'll get into. Mary Beth wants us to sell like shirts and stuff, but that's not like crazy physical stuff. I just never been interested in the physical aspect of things, because I can't create it. I'm very, like, I want to be hands on, and like I want to control the product and all of that. But
Yeah.
I
That's
totally,
because
like, I totally respect the people that are like, oh, I went to China, I went to the factory, I talked to the guy, and now I'm getting 5,000 widgets, and now they're being sold off. And I totally respect that. I think that if you can go that route, I think bravo, go for it, 100%. Um, but for me, yeah, I mean, owning your products, be it physical or digital, um, there's just so much opportunity out there. It's just overwhelming. The sky's the limit when it comes to really how much money you can make.
seem like you might go in the inventing side. It does.
I always thought I was going to be an inventor when I was a kid. And then I was like, man, you actually got to experiment. Like, I used to be very bad at.
But you like to experiment, I've noticed.
Yeah, now I do. As a kid, though, I always wanted things to work like the first time, like get things right the right way, like immediately. And that's just a bad mindset. So now I'm like, oh, let me just experiment and try to see what happens. And, whatever happens, happens. That's just how I learn nowadays. So.
That's cool. So, um, how do you feel like there's a certain time breakdown for how much time should be spent on attracting potential customers? on a regular basis? You talked about planting flags. Do you think that's like a daily habit that we should have as entrepreneurs? Do you think
Yes, I'll
that's,
just answer
you
yes.
think so?
It should be a daily habit, and only because I'm not saying like every day you should post a blog post or publish a video. Or planting flags for me can be responding to an email, sending an email, responding in a Facebook group with a nice quality answer, leaving a comment somewhere, like little things that aren't going to take up a small amount of time. You know, you're in line at the grocery store, you can open your phone and give a nice reply to somebody.
Mhm.
Planting your flag is just more about people getting exposed to you, people starting to understand who this person is. They start recognizing you. So like there's certain Facebook groups, people know that when I give an answer, that's the answer that they're going to look for in that group. Sorry about that. That's the answer they're going to look for in that group, because over time, I take my time and give quality answers for those kind of
Yeah.
things.
But do you think this is what's required in order to go from a 0 to 6 figures? You think like it's required to make lead gen a habit? Philosophy.
No, yeah. I think it depends what type of business. Like you can just do Facebook ads and just have those automated and have your funnel and make your
But you
money.
still have to manage them, right? You still have to make sure that the landing pages are converting and people are clicking and
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
and
I'm
the
thinking just so much stuff.
yeah, like John Cristani, when I did the interview with him, he's a paid ad guy, paid ads guy,
Right.
right? He's like, and you have to be aggressively putting those ads, like in order to build scale up in income. He's like, you got to be putting the ads out. You can't. I think he called it a pussy that doesn't do it enough.
Well,
He's like, you got
so
to be putting them out there.
I guess the reason why I hesitate is because I take lots of days off where I just don't touch the computer at all. And so it's not always constant, but because I have posts out there, I already have videos, there's people daily seeing my stuff, but it doesn't mean I always have to be out there.
Yeah.
And because daily I get people signing up for my emailing list. They're in their campaigns, they're in their sequences.
But it didn't
I'm
start out like that. At some
no,
point, you were disciplined, and
right.
so now the cumulative effort has caused it where you can have days off.
Right. And when you start off, you have to have some consistency of
You don't start
just
off with the 4-hour work week. That's like maybe how many years
right.
afterwards?
That's a dream. Yeah, that's a dream. That's a dream. Yeah. Yeah, that especially when you're starting off of a place of not much money or no money at all, then it just becomes, yeah, you got to have that daily grind. And I'm not saying you have to do it crazy 12-hour days or anything like that, but there has to be, it is a business
Right.
and that business has to be a job type of
And I
thing.
think it depends on where you start from and what type of relevant background you have, because some people come and maybe they don't have, like if they're starting an online business, maybe they're not good writers, maybe they're not
Right.
good with the language, they don't have good command of whatever media type they're trying to build in. I think for those people, it takes extra.
Right. Right. And so when I talk about my journey and people are like, man, how are you so good at this now? And I'm like, because I spent a lot of time failing and learning and doing stuff. And I
Yeah,
think as adults, sometimes we forget what it takes to learn things and,
right.
that trial and error. And so
Right. How
sometimes
long
we
it
try to
took
avoid
you to
it.
ride a bike? How long
Right.
it took you to learn how to walk or to learn math?
Right. 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 But I think that's been one of the huge benefits to me of having kids is because I can't look at them and be like, hey, it's okay, be patient, you're going to learn this. And then look at my own work and be like, oh, I don't want to take the time to learn any of this stuff
Yeah.
because it's not fair. And
Right.
so, it's the same thing all over again.
Right. In terms of lead conversion, that's a topic I really haven't heard you talk about as much. I know it seems like you do the bomb with attracting lots of potential customers, and once they get to you, um, I haven't heard you talk about like things like, do you use heat maps, or do you um, what do you do? Do you measure the conversion from this to that to this to that? Um, do you do a lot of conversion rate optimization? No?
No. And
So
it's
do
not
you
saying,
know?
I'm not saying it's something I shouldn't do. And it's something that over time, especially next year, I know we'll get deeper into,
Yeah.
but a lot of what I do
So you're
is
the bomb at lead gen.
I'm just, I know I'm good at bringing in the right people. And when I
And
bring in the right
copywriting.
people,
Copywriting. You do really good with that.
but see, I don't think I'm good at, I don't see it as me being good at copywriting. It's just me just talking. Like, that's just how I do it. But I've always have, again, I always have people say, you know, I love your emails. I love what you do and all that. And I'm just thinking, damn, I'm just talking. Like, I'm just doing things the way I will let somebody present things to me.
No,
Um,
I think it's a little more theoretical in those emails.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it
I
is.
noticed scarcity. I noticed the persuasion stuff in there. I'm like,
Well,
he
no, like
knows his
the
stuff.
no, the funny thing about the scarcity is that I knew it was something that helps you. And I was like, I don't want to do this, because I think the issue I always have is I'm very idealist about business, probably to a fault, in that I would say, oh, I know this is a trick that can get people to buy. And I'd be like, I don't want to trick people. But it's really not a trick. It's more, the way I view it is more, again, you got to have that external pressure to get somebody to take an action.
Yeah, you
And
do.
so,
I have to apply pressure to get my kids to eat the vegetables.
right. And so, like, I would do things like I'd run a ton of experiments where I would not have scarcity at all, and I wouldn't make sales. And I
Right.
was like, damn, like, I nailed everything, and I didn't do that. And I would tell people, like, I would ask, why didn't you buy it? And they'd be like, oh, I just forgot. Like, I didn't know it was gonna run out. I thought it was just always gonna be there, so I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm like, oh, okay. So now I add that context where I'm like, look, today's the last day. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I'm going to take action. Like,
Yeah.
you force people into taking that action.
But you
And I
don't do
think,
like a lot of pressure. Like a lot of people, man, there's so many different tools out
no,
there.
I'm not dramatic about it. No, I'm not crazy with it. I'm
But
more on
it's
long.
not bad to be. It's not bad to be serious with the pressure, as
No,
long as it, as long as it's not manipulative in a negative way or pushing them to do something negative. I'm not
right.
anti
Like, they're like,
stuff.
to help people understand the difference. Like, there's some people that will say, hey, you probably can't afford this, but what you need to do is go get a payday loan or
Yeah,
max
I've
out your
heard
credit
that.
card. Like,
Or
that's
PayPal
going out
credit.
of
I've
bounds.
heard all that.
Right. That's going out of bounds for me. Like, my goal is to help people, not put them under more stress to think
Or
that,
that.
they have the magic bullet, or that I have the magic bullet type thing.
Right.
Mine is more like, hey, I promise you this is going to help you because it's helped so many other people. I'm proud of it. I suggest you go for it. But if you can't, then down the road,
Bummer.
you'll get it, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, um, I think I've asked you a lot of questions.
shit, we've been talking, man.
And I think I think what I've noticed about Dare to Conquer, and this is where I think it might be going, and then we can talk more about what projects you're working on because
Okay.
I do want to know. But it seems like you just made the divide between the Dare to Conquer and Blog Simple Framework. So you notice that there's people who want more of a passive investor type affiliate site, and then there's people who want an active publishing company.
Right.
And is that where you think you're going with Dare to Conquer? Is like into teaching people how to have a full blown publishing company, or
Dare, Dare to Conquer for me is more when people think I want to be recognized for something. I want my brand to be recognized for something. When people
For
think about
something.
something, when somebody thinks about something specific, they know they come to me. And it's
Mhm.
more of that building that product-based business, building that business that people truly understand, okay, this person is having an impact on people with regards to some type of topic. And it becomes more of that long-term dream of, can I build something passive that's making $100,000 a year, $1,000,000 a year type of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
So it's really about building something much, much larger than uh, a traditional blogger would think about. Like,
So
a
like an
blogger.
authority type of brand instead of
Correct.
um, behind the scenes type
Correct.
of brand.
Correct.
Okay.
So, I mean, the stuff that's coming out for it, in my vision of it, is my head's about to explode. Like, I just feel overwhelmed thinking about it, because I I want to build that one thing where people push themselves to limits they didn't know they even had,
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
where at the end of the day they go, damn, I built that. Like, they're just super, super proud, and and then, we don't, next time you ask me that question, how do you get your family and friends to support you? And I'm like, well, you just show them this $50,000 you just made this month, because you didn't scam anybody. You did something really awesome, and you did something
Right.
super helpful. And, maybe one day your friends and family are like, hey, I just came across your website and an ad. How do I get a discount? And you're like, nah, you don't get no discount. You got to pay full price. In fact, you got to pay double, because you doubted me. You doubted me from the beginning.
So I think I've definitely asked you a lot of questions, and I really appreciate how open you were with answering all the questions that I've had. Um, so, what projects are you currently working on? And probably a lot, right?
The funny thing is, I'm trying to reduce my projects because I work on too many things. But obviously we have Blog Simple Framework, which still has 4 or 5 more courses coming out in the next 2 months. Dare to Conquer, relaunching at the beginning of 2020. And this one site that I've been dying to work on for like the last 5 years, called Talented Underachiever,
Oh
which is
yeah, I saw that one.
which is about getting the most out of yourself, but I never actually get to work on it. So that one I'm actually investing a lot of time in building up a YouTube channel for. So you're going to see like a lot more video type stuff from me. And yeah, I'm really excited. So I'm trying to keep it down to those 3. I'll probably add one more because I'm crazy. But if I can keep it to those 3 for at least the next 6 months, then I'll be very happy.
Super cool. And so, can entrepreneurs expect to learn from Blog Simple Framework, then Dare to Conquer, then Talented Underachiever?
Uh, with Blog Simple Framework, the idea is you really you really want to go beyond learning how to build a blog and just go beyond the steps of how to install WordPress. It's, how do you get everything you can out of the blog, learning all the steps and being able to repeat that over and over again.
Yeah.
With Dare to Conquer, it's going to be, how do you build an audience that resonates with you? So you're not always chasing traffic. You have those 1,000 true fans that love everything that you do, that buy everything that you do, that are just so engaged with you that, you know, they're just, they think about you, without even being at the computer and everything, that kind of thing. Talented Underachiever, y'all will just have to wait and see. So
Okay. And so, where's the best place for entrepreneurs to learn more from you?
at this moment, I would say go to Blog Simple Framework.
Okay.
Um, and I think that's just a good starting point for everybody getting involved in this online business journey and building up confidence. And you'll really get a flow in my emails of the type of person I am. And you can say,
Yeah.
what, that guy's crazy. No chance. I'm done.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe. And you'll never hear from me again. Or you can stick by me and we'll have some talks.
Okay, and so if you're interested in Blog Simple Framework, I'll leave a link in the description box below where you can access that and read the emails that Paul is talking about, or Scrivs is talking about, and so you can check out the course that he has. And Dare to Conquer is the one that I started with, but it's evolved a lot. I mean, it started out as Billionaire Blog Club, and it's evolved a lot since I started out. So that's all I have for this interview. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot of golden nuggets from it that can help you in your business. And I'd love to hear more about things that you picked up during the interview, ideas you might have, comments, any feedback. And if you could leave that in the feedback in the comments below, that would be awesome. If you like,
give my girl some feedback. Drop her some comments, man.
Thank you.
It's not easy talking to me, especially this long.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, where I do product and service reviews, as well as growth strategies to help you grow your business from idea to full-time income and from full-time income to enterprise, then definitely subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon so you can be notified of upcoming videos. That's all I have for this video, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye. Oh no.